Staying in your current data role is costing you millions because what you don't realize is that the current tech skills you already have are not that far from the current tech skills that those at Amazon, Facebook, Google, etc. have as well. So my name is Chris Garzone. I'm the CEO of Data Engineer Academy. We've already helped over 1,000 people land higher paying data jobs. I went from making 60 grand a year at Amazon to making about 450 grand a year at Lyft. And at Data Engineer Academy, because we've already helped over 1,000 people land higher paying data jobs, we also have access to businesses. And what a FAANG hiring manager recently told me was exactly what they are looking for when hiring a data engineer or a data professional. And it's not just tech skills. In this video, we're going to talk about 3 secrets as to what FAANG companies, and for those of you that don't know, FAANG companies stand for Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, or let's just say top tier 1 tech companies, what they really care about when hiring data engineers and how you can stand out even without the perfect experience, the perfect background, without the perfect resume. So let's jump into it. So first thing is first, it's not about the tools, it's about your thinking. So what one of the managers told me is that, hey, we can teach new people tools, but we can't teach them how to think. We can't teach them problem solving. We can't teach them how to work through logic. And I think that also goes with what we teach at our school, which is, hey, I am not interested in whether you can solve a SQL LeetCode problem. I'm interested in whether you can solve how to answer a SQL question during the interview. Because during the interview, what they're really looking for is, hey, how is he going through the problem and how is he communicating this? And how is he communicating his thoughts? Because what they're looking for in the actual interview is, how does he think? How does he process this question? How does he articulate his logic? When prepping, you should focus 70% of your energy on thinking through why you're doing what you're doing. And so for any of my coders out there, you understand, hey, when you get a problem, a SQL problem, there's multiple ways to solve that problem, right? We all know that. That's not the impressive part during the interview. The impressive part is when they see how you're thinking about the problem clearly and when they see why you chose one option over the other. It's not just about getting the right answer. And by the way, I know I'm saying SQL, but like this applies to everything. This applies to Python, data modeling, a system design architecture, right? So the FAANG hiring manager, when he said this, it was like, yeah, this is exactly why we do mock interviews, because yes, somebody can go out and do a bunch of SQL LeetCode, but it doesn't actually demonstrate to us how they're going to present themselves during the interview, because that's what they're really looking for. The second thing that hiring manager told me he was looking for was impact over experience. So what that means is, can you articulate what the business impact and business results were from the work that you were doing, not just how long you were doing something or how many tools you worked with. And so in resume A, we have somebody who might just list out 40 tools. Hey, I worked with this, I worked with that, etc., etc. Problem is, if that machine learning algorithm doesn't actually have any sort of impact, then it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, businesses won't let that person just sit there and tinker with a ML model if it doesn't have some sort of impact on the project or some sort of impact on the business. And a lot of times, engineers have a hard time tying what they're doing from a technical perspective back into the business. And so with that, you have to be able to articulate the impact in the resume, because that's the first step. And then you have to be able to carry that into the actual interview. So here's a good example. Saying I optimized a pipeline is different than saying I reduced data latency by 48%, which reduced the cost of our AWS bill by 48% as well, which actually saved the company $8 million in actual hard costs per year. Right, so immediately when you say per year, it's like, oh, this is something that's going to have an impact for the next 5 to 10 years. That person who is a little more detailed and a little more specific, and let's be honest, just a little more knowledgeable as to how to tie back their impact, that person is going to stand out better, because the first person, they might not have articulated their impact simply because they didn't know it. And that matters to a company hiring you. It's like, if you don't know why you're doing something, that's kind of a red flag, right? And so the format that we like to teach in order to take that and put that in the interview is called the STAR format, right? Situation, task, action, result, right? What's the situation that you were in? What's the task that you were tasked with or that needed to get done in your resume, in your bullet points? And when you can articulate that on the interview, specifically in the behavioral question rounds, by the way, that's going to make you come off as somebody who is going to drive more business impact. And that is going to stand out more for the hiring manager. They would rather hire somebody with 2 to 3 years experience that can drive significant impact than the 6-year veteran that has no idea what they've been doing in the same company for the last 6 years. The point is to say, hey, in my 10 years, I made this $100 million impact on the business. Because if you can say that, then you can justify why a big tech company should pay you 2, 3, 4, 500 grand a year, right? Because they're confident you'll give them that return on their investment. So very massive second point. Again, it's impact over experience, and that specifically will help you on the resume and during the behavioral questions. And point number 3, what the hiring manager at this FAANG company told me, again, it's something we've been preaching forever. Communication will get you hired in any role, but in an engineering role, it actually really stands out. And break this up into 2 parts. Number 1 is why it's important. Number 2 is what does it actually mean, right? Because communication can be this big amorphous term, and sometimes it's not helpful. So why is it important? Well, as you become more senior, right? Maybe you have 5, 10, 15 years of experience already in tech. The tech gap between your competition isn't that high, right? If you're doing SQL for 10 years, then you probably know the same amount of SQL than the person doing SQL for 15 years. Maybe there's a little bit of gaps. Maybe you need to learn window functions. I get it. But at the same time, that gap isn't that big anymore. So the piece that stands out is, are you a good leader? Can you communicate? Can you hold people accountable, etc.? That really matters, especially as you become more senior. That's how you'll get paid bigger and bigger pay bands. Now, in that communication piece, here's why it matters. Communication is a huge cost sunker or cost saver. Here's what I mean. If you have to do a project with your team members and you communicate something wrong, or maybe you're not the best communicator and there's a lot of misunderstanding from your team members, all of a sudden a project that was supposed to take 2 weeks to do might take 4 weeks to do, all because of the miscommunication or lack of communication or not that good communication. And so if you think about that going from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, right? Something that might cost 100 grand in salary, let's say it was a bunch of team members, right? 10 team members. Now all of a sudden costs 200 grand in salary. So in a very real way, your lack of communication can cost the company millions and millions of dollars. And so I hear this all the time from clients. They're like, it's crazy that they're gonna hire me based on 30 minutes of talking to me. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the point. Because if you can't communicate something really well in 30 minutes during the interview, there's no way they're gonna trust you to communicate something really well during a 30-minute meeting when you have to talk to 20 people and 3 different teams, right? And cross collaborate. So communication is such an important skill, especially if you're trying to become a leader, because then you have to communicate with your team members, your stakeholders, other teams and other leaders on other teams. And so it's super important. And best way for you to practice this is to practice it with somebody else who knows what they're looking for. And you can even call this the grandma problem, where it's like, if you're trying to explain something technical, go to your grandma, right? Go to somebody non-technical, try to explain it to them. And if they have a very confused look on their face, probably not doing as good of a job as you. And so if your grandma or friend or whoever in this case does understand what you're trying to say, you're golden. But again, the key piece here is, are you able to communicate every piece of the process? Not just what needs to be done, not just the progress of your work, but also the business impact, which again ties back to number 2. If you're not able to communicate your business impact or anything, they're not going to trust you as a senior engineer, a team lead, a staff engineer, a C-suite, a director, a TPM, a PM, all of these roles that require a little more communication on your side. By the way, if you want insider tips like this weekly, I will keep breaking down exactly what you need to do in order to land higher and higher paying data related roles as this world becomes more and more data centric, especially in the tech world. We know AI and machine learning is going in that direction, and our mission at Data Engineer Academy is to help every current tech professional and ideally a ton of people not even in tech get into higher paying data data roles. But specifically, if you are in tech, hit subscribe, share, like, do what you got to do, because we want to help people earn what they know they should be earning. So today we covered 3 really important things that a FAANG hiring manager told me. They told me to worry about the thought process and your thinking over what tools you know. They told me to focus on the impact that you make, not just your years of experience. And they told me that you should really work on your communication skills, because simplicity over complexity will always sell and always be better when it comes to communication. Now, with that said, if you want to see what a real FAANG interview looks like, then click on this link over here, where I will walk you through a mock interview for a data engineering system design round. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Ciao.